problem with Swagger is that for all the times he fell short against Rusev, we had JBL constantly telling us on commentary what a loser this guy was. You let down 318 million Americans, you're a loser, you're not a patriot, and all this stuff, week after week after week, loss after loss after loss. And I'm not even saying he should have beaten Rusev. I'm not saying that at all. But there's a way to tell that story without completely burying the guy on commentary. And I don't use that word very often, but in terms of kayfabe, okay, we're talking storyline here, the guy's character, he was completely buried on commentary by JBL week after week. And I don't want to hear this nonsense. Well, JBL's the heel commentator. He's like the modern-day Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's not. He's not always a heel commentator. He's not out there doing a shtick like you would see back in the 80s or back in the 90s. In fact, I would even argue, and by no means am I comparing them quality-wise, because Jesse Ventura is at the top of anyone's list, as far as I'm concerned. He's at the top of that list, right up there with Bobby Heenan and all those guys. But I think in terms of being a commentator, I would more equate JBL to a Jesse Ventura than a Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan was strictly a heel. There's a conflict of interest. His own guys were wrestling on the show. At one point, he managed like 50 different guys. So he's on commentary endorsing his own guys, and when he's not, he's making fun of Tito Santana, the Flying Jalapeno, and he's making fun of the Big Boss Man and his mom and Virgil and Tatanka and all these different things. And that was his deal. He was very good. He was very funny at it. Gorilla Monsoon was the perfect straight man. Jesse Ventura, he could do that. He can kind of mock the baby faces, and he could talk trash all the time about Hulk Hogan. But the thing with Jesse was he could also be the voice of reason. There were plenty of times when I found myself, even as a young fan, agreeing with what he was saying. I'm like, hey, you know what? He's got a point. Even though Monsoon, of course, would be like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And Monsoon was as biased as the heel announcers were. It was always, if Hulk Hogan raked somebody's eyes, Ventura would have a freak fit. How can you condone this, Monsoon? It's okay for, Hogan to do it, but it's not okay for DiBiase to. And Monsoon's response was always like, well, turnabout is fair play. And I'm like, bullshit. But he was a very good straight man sometimes in that way, where Ventura would at least sometimes make sense. JBL, believe it or not, sometimes does make sense. He's not just a straight heel commentator. So when he's out there talking about how Swagger's a loser, Swagger's a loser, Swagger's a loser, after a while you start to believe, you know what, he's right. Swagger's a loser. I watch this guy on television every week, and he loses, he passes out, he taps out, whatever the case may be. So to me, that was the biggest problem of all when it came to Swagger, and even for that one segment, trying to buy into the fact that this guy would actually be on Team Cena at Survivor Series and could be perceived as this great threat. Ooh, Jack Swagger's on his team. Surely they have victory well in hand. Like, bullshit. I didn't buy it for a second. In the very next segment, they proved me right. He got taken right out of the match. So they announced this, and it's like, and now we're supposed to care all of a sudden? It didn't work. Cena also tried to convince Ryback to join his team. The Authority came out with Mark Henry, so he's in for Survivor Series. Stephanie tried to convince Ryback to join their team, and in the end he said, John Cena doesn't sign my checks, and then he laid him out with a spine buster, and they would meet later on in the main event. Stephanie had a great line during the show. It was during a backstage segment with Rusev and Lana. You heard it at the top of the podcast. There are no politics, she says, in WWE. That may be the line of the year.